All right, today we're diving into something that could, completely change how we think about work, money, and even power. We're talking about DAOs, and we're asking a pretty big question. Are they actually the dream of a bossless future? Let's get into it.
No, seriously, just think about that for a second. What if you worked for a company with no boss, an organization where every single person gets a real say, where decisions aren't just, handed down from the top, but are actually built from the bottom up? No CEO, no board of directors. It sounds kind of like sci-fi, right? Well, that's the core idea behind a DAO. Okay, so before we get all wrapped up in the tech side of things, it's super important to get one thing straight. This whole idea of decentralization, it's not new, like at all. This isn't just some crypto invention. It's a political and social idea that has some seriously deep roots in history.
So, what are we really talking about here? Well, at its heart, being decentralized just means taking power away from one single point and spreading it out. That's it. It's about distributing authority, and it doesn't matter if you're talking about a government, a big corporation, or heck, even a small online group.
And when I say deep roots, I mean it. This idea goes way back. The words themselves, centralization and decentralization, came out of the French Revolution. By the 1800s, you had big thinkers like Alexis de Tocqueville pushing for it as a way to keep governments in check. Then you jump to the 20th century, and you've got whole movements in the US fighting against centralized economic power. And all of this happened long before anyone even dreamed of writing code for a DAO. Which brings us right back to today and this massive new experiment, the DAO. It's like they took this old political idea and tried to bake it directly into computer code. And it poses a really wild question. What if code is law? What if software, not people, ran the whole show? So a DAO, that stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization, is pretty much what it sounds like. You've got an organization with no one person in charge, no central boss. Instead, all the power is spread out among the members, and everyone works together on a common goal, making decisions from the ground up. Okay, but how does that actually work without a boss telling people what to do? Well, the magic ingredient here is something called a smart contract. The easiest way to think about it is like a super-powered vending machine. You put in the right input, in this case, enough votes, and it automatically spits out the result. It's a piece of code that lives on the blockchain and just executes the rules automatically. No manager needed.
The actual decision-making process is, believe it or not, pretty simple. So, step 1, someone, maybe you, submits a proposal. Step 2, all the other members vote on it, usually using special tokens that work like voting shares. Step 3, if the vote passes a certain threshold, boom, the smart contract kicks in and automatically makes it happen. And the coolest part? Step 4, the whole thing, the proposal, the votes, the outcome, it's all recorded on a public blockchain where absolutely everyone can see it. Total transparency.
And you got to remember, DAOs aren't just floating out there on their own. They're a really key part of this much bigger ecosystem we call decentralized finance, or DeFi. If you look at this chart here, you can see how it's all layered. You've got the blockchain at the bottom, then smart contracts, and DAOs kind of sit on top of that, interacting with all these other financial tools and protocols. They're one piece of a giant puzzle.
Okay, so that's the dream, right? But like with any big world-changing idea, there's a huge difference between the utopian promise and the often messy reality. This is where the story gets really interesting. It's this constant battle between what DAOs could be and the very real dangers they face.
So let's break it down. The promise is amazing, right? No central boss means no single point of failure. You can have people from all over the world participating, and everything is out in the open. Sounds great, but the reality can be brutal. Voting can take forever. You're expecting every member to be an expert on really complex stuff. And maybe the biggest one, because it's all just code, a single bug or security flaw can bring the whole thing crashing down. And this isn't just a what-if scenario. This has actually happened. Back in 2016, there was this massive project literally just called the DAO. It was a huge hit. It raised over $150 million. People were ecstatic. And then, disaster struck. A hacker found a loophole in the code and just started siphoning millions of dollars out of it. The whole thing was a catastrophe. It didn't just cause the organization to collapse. It was so bad, it actually split the entire Ethereum blockchain in two. This whole experience points to a much deeper, maybe even more fundamental problem that researchers are just now starting to unpack. It's a paradox, a contradiction right at the core of how DAOs are supposed to function. It even makes you wonder, Is true decentralization just an illusion? So, here's the bombshell. A brand new study from 2024 out of the City University of Hong Kong came to a pretty shocking conclusion. They found that, and I'm quoting here, contrary to popular narratives, DAOs are inherently predisposed to centralization. Whoa. And we're not talking about something that happens slowly over years. The research showed that this trend toward an oligarchy, where a tiny group of people holds all the power, it shows up right at the beginning. And it gets way worse within the first 3 weeks. It's almost like power finds a way to concentrate itself, even in a system built to stop that from happening. And this is where the paradox really hits you. On one hand, if a DAO stays super decentralized, it's great for building a strong community. People feel engaged. But it's not very good at, making money or getting things done efficiently. Then you have the other side. The more centralized DAOs are way more efficient, they perform better as a business, but they lose that special community vibe. It seems you can't have both. It's a trade-off. So the big question is, why? Why does this happen? And it turns out this isn't just about people being bad at management. The problem is actually much deeper. It's a limitation that's literally built into the technology itself. It all boils down to this classic problem in the blockchain world. First, you've got the main goal. The whole reason we're here. Decentralization. Spreading power out so nobody is in charge. Second, for any of this to work, you need ironclad security. The system has to be able to fight off attackers and make sure every transaction is legit. And third, to be anything more than a cool science project, you need scalability. It has to be fast enough to handle tons and tons of users without grinding to a halt. So you've got those three things: decentralization, security, and scalability. And here's the catch. It's called the blockchain trilemma. And the basic idea is you can pick any two, but you can't have all three. If you want a system that's super decentralized and super secure, it's going to be slow as molasses, not scalable. If you want it to be fast and secure, you probably have to give up some decentralization and rely on just a few powerful computers to run things. You're always forced to choose. So what does this all mean? It brings us to the most important point of this whole discussion. When we're talking about building these new kinds of organizations, there's no magic bullet. There's no perfect answer. There are only trade-offs.
And those scholars from City UHK really nailed it with this quote. The choice every DAO has to make is this. Do you focus on community-centric governance to make things great for your members, or do you focus on streamlined operations to make the most money possible? You can try to do a little of both, but it seems almost impossible to truly master both at once.
And that leaves us with a really big question, one that's way bigger than just tech or DAOs. It's a question for all of us. As we build the companies and communities of the future, what do we want to value more? Is it the sometimes messy, sometimes slow, but deeply human power of community? Or is it the clean, fast, but often centralized power of efficiency? There's no easy answer to that one.